Welcome to the OMG Tarot podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay, aka OMG Tarot. Today, we're talking about number 8 in the major arcana, strength. As far as astrological associations go, strength is probably the most obvious. We've got Leo the lion, right there. In addition to the lion, we have a woman in a long white dress leaning over the lion with her hands on his face. At first glance, this card might look a bit more stark than some of the other cards we've covered. Unlike, for example, Temperance, where we had the cups with the water and the wings and the long winding road and the sun, or perhaps the Devil, where we have an inverted pentagram as well as two figures, each with some elemental associations, as well as chains and as well as color imagery. Strength, we've got just a few things. We've got that lion, we've got that woman, we've got the symbol above her head that's going to be important in just a few, and we've got a mountain in the background with some lush trees and grass in the foreground. Does this relative starkness make this card a little less important than other major arcana cards? I wouldn't say less important, but perhaps it means that its meaning is a bit more focused. And so let's look to the imagery to find that meaning. Let's examine this woman a little more closely. We see that her dress is white, as I mentioned, and she's quite fully covered. She's also got a crown of flowers wrapped around her head, as well as another garland of flowers around her waist. The lion's tongue is sticking out, and it appears like he's looking up at her. Perhaps they're making eye contact. But notably, this lion doesn't really appear to be struggling too hard, and in fact, she doesn't look super fazed at having her hands on a lion's face, which typically you'd think that'd be a pretty stressful position to be in, no? She looks pretty unbothered, doesn't she? She's just digging in her heels, remaining steadfast, and continuing to push back against this lion, which has the capacity to hurt or even kill and eat her. That's what strength is. Strength is sticking to your values and sticking to what you know is going to be right and what you know is going to be effective as you push back against the challenges that your environment throws your way. And hey, maybe those challenges aren't necessarily your environment. Perhaps they're people. In any case, this is staying true to yourself and continuing to do the hard things even as they test your fortitude. Because let's bring it back to Leo the lion. If you've got a Leo friend, are they shy? Is any Leo shy? Is Leo capable of being shy? No. Leo is pure charisma and pure bombasticism. Leo hogs the microphone at karaoke night and anywhere else they can find a microphone. Leo is not afraid to be themselves, and even when the whole crowd is booing, Leo keeps on singing. Even when Leo has an unpopular opinion, do you think they stuff it down? No! They find ways to make it sound appealing to the whole crowd. Leo's a leader. There's a reason the lion is called the king of the jungle. Strength has those themes of sticking to your principles. In case you were wondering, I don't have any planets in Leo. Leo is ruling my 10th house. So, bit by bit, you guys are going to be able to put my whole chart together. And the first one who does that, I'll give you a free tarot card reading. I think so far you guys have my sun sign, and if you're savvy, you can figure out my ascendant based on some information I just shared. But enough about me. Let's talk more about strength. Take a look at what's floating above the woman's head. We see an infinity symbol. There's also another name for this symbol. It's called the lemniscate. There are mathematical applications for the lemniscate that I don't quite understand because I didn't get any further than statistics in school, and even then, it was a pretty entry-level statistics course. But here's what I can tell you about it in this card and in other cards. It's typically used to indicate spiritual strength and spiritual fortitude, which, take a look at what card we're on. And that segues into another interesting fact about this card, which is that in earlier versions of the deck, it was actually referred to as fortitude rather than strength. And really what we're looking at here is the fortitude of sticking with your spiritual strength, especially when you're going up against challenges that are presented to you by the world and by your environment. You can read this lion here as a symbol of nature and think of that literary concept of one of the conflict types in the story is person versus nature. You've seen the lemniscate in a few other places in the tarot deck, notably the Magician and the Two of Pentacles. There are a few different ways to interpret this. The one that I typically lean on is that this symbol indicates self-perpetuating power, that strength and the Magician and our figure in the Two of Pentacles doesn't need someone else to hold their hand or give them any help, that they're relying on their own inner strength and inner momentum to continue to support themselves in what they're doing. Another interpretation is that these figures' power goes beyond what you can really explain with logic, and that instead it's something that's really just beyond our comprehension, that the magician has infinite capacity to create and strength has infinite capacity to survive. The third interpretation is that these are skills that will continue to serve you forever. Let's look at all three of them. In the Two of Pentacles, there's a careful balance regarding the money and perhaps the other tangible assets that figure has to balance. Maybe we can interpret that as really getting on top of your finances and staying on top of the things that life throws at us that we have to pay for and save for. Once you develop that skill set and become financially savvy, you can take that skill forever and use it to serve yourself in a variety of ways. With the magician, too, we see learning how to use the tools at your disposal to continually create, and that's a skill that the magician will continue to develop throughout his life. And then here in strength, we see that skill of standing up for yourself and pushing back on challenges and really standing on your own 2 feet, which can be quite difficult the first time that you really face adversity and have to do that. But once you've got that first time under your belt, that's a skill that you'll continue to rely on forever and ever. When you read this card, keep these interpretations in mind. We can even see other areas of this card that really speak to this idea of doing the difficult things and overcoming challenges through willpower. Let's take a look at what's in the background. We see a very tall mountain, and in previous episodes we talked about how mountains on tarot cards are challenges to overcome and hurdles to scale and really triumph over. Let's take a look at how our figure's standing. We can't even see her feet, but we can see that she's planted quite firmly on the ground. This lady's not going anywhere. She is grounded and she is solid and she's not going to be moved, especially not by that lion. There's a lot of that grounded earth energy in this card. Beyond her solid footing, we also see all the flowers on her. But remember, this card is associated with Leo, and Leo's a fire sign, and fire is passion and motivation and action. So, keep this in mind when you interpret major arcana cards. While your minor cards are going to have one main elemental theme that you'll still see other elements referenced, like notably the Six of Swords. It's a swords card, so it's air, but we have quite a lot of water on that card, which means emotions are something to consider and there's something factoring in here. Major arcana cards tend to not be one element. They tend to have multiple elements, possibly even all 4, represented in the imagery. And in this card, I'm seeing earth and I'm seeing fire. I'm not really seeing a whole lot of air or water here. And let's think about what that might mean. Perhaps when you're being tested and you have to stand strong and push back, there isn't really room for emotions. I'm not saying it's not an emotional situation to be in, it certainly is, but I think that this card might be saying, cry about your challenges later. You've got to show a bold face when you're in combat, and even though this woman is handling it very gracefully, she is in combat. Let's also examine the lack of air in this card. I don't see clouds, I don't see wind, I don't even see angel wings like we saw in Temperance. What do you think that might mean? I'm reading it as, don't think too hard about it. Just like you really can't cry about your situation right now, you've kind of got to just get through it. Don't think too hard. You can analyze later. So if you've been listening to me for a while, you might have caught on to a lot of themes being repeated and permutated from card to card. This isn't the first time we've encountered this idea of spiritual versus earthly drives and desires and challenges. We played with that idea in The Devil, where we saw earthly desires being prioritized over spiritual ones, and we saw its inverse in The Lovers. It's not me who's redundant, it's that tarot has a very specific vocabulary, and you can see how different cards use the same universal vocabulary to express their themes. Think of it almost kind of like how Taco Bell really only has like 5 or 10 ingredients, but They write a huge menu using all those different ingredients in a variety of different ways. Kind of like how the cheesy gordita crunch is just a hard taco with a warm flatbread wrapped around it, and a crunch wrap supreme is a round hard taco in a bigger burrito wrap. They're really kind of the same thing, just one is taco shaped and the other one is round. Let's explore that idea of persevere now and analyze it later a little bit further. We can do that by dropping strength into the major arcana and taking a closer look at which card precedes it and which card comes after it. Right before strength, we have the chariot. That's a card that's all about drive and moving forward and putting yourself into new environments. It's also the card associated with Cancer, so think of that protective outer shell that Cancer the crab has, and that protective chassis that this chariot driver has. We're moving forward, but we're secure and we're safe and we're stable. But we might be a little bit guarded, versus then compare all the armor and that safe chassis around this chariot driver to the lack of armor over on the woman in strength. She put herself out there, and now she has to stand up for herself. She doesn't have that secure rolling steel cage to keep her safe. Then after strength, we've got the hermit. We've got a card that's largely about analysis and looking closely at the details. This is your chance to be that Monday morning quarterback, or just review your own work. Take a look back at where you were strong and where you could have been stronger, or maybe where you didn't necessarily need to be as strong. This is looking at the past and, to an extent, looking toward the future with the data and the details from the past, and really just analyzing it yourself without having other people's opinions or inputs there to distract you. In order to be that analytical hermit, you kind of need some data to analyze, and you're getting that data from strength, and from the other cards preceding it, but most immediately from strength. So, what does it mean when strength comes up in a tarot card reading? It means you've got to be strong, whether that means physically strong or emotionally strong or psychologically strong, or depends on the context. In any case, it doesn't just mean beating your personal best in the gym. It means the bigger picture of what's enabling you to beat your personal best. There's that sense of groundedness that we see from the woman standing firmly on this lush green earth, and there's the sense of perpetuating it over and over, which we see in the infinity symbol above her head. It could also speak to embracing those Leo qualities, like being brave and shouting loudly and just being unapologetically yourself. So let's do a couple example readings. Let's say you're thinking about quitting your job. You're over it, you hate this job, you just want to be out of there. But you want to know if that's a prudent decision. So we shuffle, 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 and there's strength. I don't think you should quit your job. Not now, at least. I think you kind of gotta stick it out for the time being. Let's try another, and just like last time, let's make it interesting by pairing strength with another card. I just received a request to ask what will the rest of this year look like for me and my significant other. So we shuffle, 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 and we've got strength with the Two of Wands. Interesting. I'm reading this as, this isn't going to be the easiest year for you guys. I think, as per strength, the two of you are going to be facing some adversity, and you're going to feel like it's the two of you against the world, having to hold fast to what you know is the right course of action. With our Two of Wands here, I'd say that a big part of your perseverance and your fortitude is going to involve maintaining a very high-level view of all of the challenges that come your way and remaining grounded. Take a look at how the guy on the Two of Wands is standing within a castle. His feet are on the ground, and as we can see, he's within the safe confines of the castle walls. He's looking out over the trees and the mountains over there in the background and the water, so he recognizes that there are some difficulties here and there are some challenges to overcome, but he's safe and he's holding on to what motivates him. This is still a Wands card. It's still fire. It's still passion. And his hand is firmly on that wand. He's gripping onto what he's passionate about doing and what he's going to do. So I'd say perspective is very important for the two of you this year. And also, I'd say keep in mind there might be some competing interests happening. Twos in tarot are two things coming together, whether they're coming together harmoniously or in conflict with each other. And we see two wands here. We could read this very literally as these are two egos or two passions, or perhaps you and your significant other are going to have to find a way to mesh those passions together and mesh those actions that you each want to take. And that can be a bit challenging. That might be where our strength card comes in, saying that, well, you both need to recognize where to stand my ground, but also maybe where to fold a little, all the while being authentic to yourself. So, that's about it for our discussion of strength today. I hope you learned something, and I hope you bring this with you the next time you pull strength out of your deck. Keep an eye on the blog for the accompanying blog post, although I still need to post the temperance one, so keep an eye on the blog for both of them, for temperance and for strength. And if you haven't been reading my blog, check it out. There are certain tidbits of information that make it into the blog post that don't quite make it into the podcast, and vice versa. The blog URL is omgtarot.com. And if you'd like to connect on Insta, give me a follow. My handle is its_omg_tarot. So I think that's about it. Stay tuned next time for the next card in our series. We're going to be talking about the Magician. And, ideally, I'm going to stick to a consistent publishing schedule, and I think I like Thursdays. Let me know what you think. Until next time, have fun with your cards. Alright, we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.